So welcome to another season, our second episode of
Yes.
On the Couch with
Shuntai
and Johnell Allen-Bey.
Yes.
So we have a live audience and we're glad to have you here.
Yes, we
and
are.
We have some hot topics today. This is a
Yes.
hot show because of the fact that I get a chance to actually interview the great Shuntai.
Yes, you do.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
So
to
I'm
this.
excited about it. Today's topic, we are talking about overcoming daddy issues.
So tell our audience, why is this so important to you?
Well, first of all, I am a licensed professional counselor.
Okay.
I'm a business owner. I'm a mother, a grandmother. And it's important to me because my life has been impacted by daddy issues.
Okay. So when did you first discover this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, this ain't nothing that you just come up with at night, oh, I got daddy issues. I mean,
Right.
how did you know? What triggered you?
It was through my experiences and my life choices that I realized that something was not quite right as far as the choices that I make in life, why I do things, being a high achiever, being a workaholic,
Right.
per se. So a lot of things happened to make me realize the daddy issues existed in my life.
Right. Now, I read a few things that you wrote in
Okay.
December, in 2010, you put something out on
Yes.
daddy issues. I read that. And then I read when you and your dad came together and
Right.
I think it was 2017.
Right.
How did you do that?
So just to give you a little background information, as I was coming up, I always had my father in my life. My mother and father were married when I was about 6 months.
Oh,
And
okay.
they didn't divorce until I was 8, but they weren't together all that time. They
Okay.
actually, by the time I was a year old, they separated. But
Oh,
I was able to see my father frequently. My
Okay.
father was very involved in my
Okay.
life. I went to basketball games with him to watch him play. He took me shopping. I mean, he was very instrumental in my life up until the age of 10.
uh-oh.
Yeah.
So 10.
Yeah.
Why is that so significant?
Up
Because
in-
something had to happen.
Right. Up until the age of 10, my father ended up having an addiction.
Okay.
And I didn't realize what his addiction, about his addiction until I was about 10 years old. It was a birthday party that I had. I was able to go visit my father after my birthday party, and I had my birthday money. I was all excited, and I
Right.
wrote about this in
I know I
my
read it.
first
I
book.
cracked up.
And you cracked up on it? Okay.
I ain't gonna give it away, right?
I went by his house with him and his wife, and my father was supposed to take me shopping
Right.
that weekend. I had my birthday money. He said, "Baby, let me hold on to it, and we're gonna go shopping."
Now, did he give you the birthday money, or this is what you
No,
accumulated from
This is
everybody?
what I accumulated from my birthday party.
Right.
My mom was always about birthday parties.
And how much was it?
It was a little over $100. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a lot of money back
Yes,
in your day.
early 80s. Hey.
Right. Yeah.
So we went over there. He held on to the money.
He said, "I got this."
It was over a weekend. Weekend was coming to an end. And I'm like, okay, we're supposed to go shopping. What's
Right.
going on? He's like, well, Daddy will take you shopping later. And I'm like, hold up.
Right.
So I went home. My mother was livid.
Without your money?
Without my money.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, he's like, well, apparently he had borrowed.
He
my
borrowed your
He-
money.
He borrowed the money. And
In some states,
yeah.
that's considered stealing. No.
And we later found out that he did have an addiction.
Wow.
And it went from cocaine to crack.
But
in the
during this
early-
process, right, when you first found out about this, what went on in your mind? How did you process this as a 10-year-old?
Well, at this time, I really couldn't fathom it because I didn't know about addictions.
And he was your hero.
And he was my hero.
Okay.
So my father was very important in my life, but that was the first disappointment that I had. So it was a series of disappointments. And as I got older, like around adolescent, teenager, I realized, okay, this is real with
Right.
him. And I
Absolutely.
understood what addiction was like.
Right.
And I really felt like that he chose the addiction over his children.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep.
So that's where mistrust started.
Okay.
Because somebody told me something, which was my father,
Right.
and then he didn't follow up. So that he dropped the ball. So living life, I realized I really focused on what people told me and living up to what they say. So your word is very important to me.
Especially when you're a man, right? Because
Exactly.
it's obvious that being a man and not living up to your expectations.
Yes.
I mean, from 10 on, there's a setback going on. Every man got a flaw, right?
Right.
Okay, that's that daddy issue stuff. Okay,
That's where it starts.
all right.
That's where it starts. So I wanted to be able to control things in my life. So I was very controlling in my environment
Okay.
starting up. So that's where it started at.
And so once you discovered this daddy issues, give our audience a little bit more about the definition of daddy issues. You know, we throw that term around, but what is that?
Daddy issues is pretty much you live your life based on the experiences that you had with your parent. You could have mommy issues, you can have daddy issues, or I've been in clinic with people that had issues with both.
Wow.
The mother and the father, so it becomes parent issues. So all the choices that you make in life are based upon that disappointment or something that happened early on. And when you learn that,
Right.
that's the key to becoming more aware and taking control of your life, because you turn into, you're not blaming the other person. My life is messed up because my mother had an addiction or my father was never at home. You stop blaming and then you start to take control and control what you can control in the situation.
Now, can men have daddy issues?
Men can have daddy issues.
Because I feel
and
like
mommy.
I got a daddy issue.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure, you know.
So what would be your daddy issue?
Mine was overbearing, and I feel that I'm an overbearing person too. So I guess that was part of my daddy issues.
So
right?
that rubbed off on you.
Yeah, So, but that's good that you explain that. So it's not just one-sided.
No, it's
you
not.
know, when we talk about daddy issues, but why does it affect our girls so hard? Why is it so impactful to our young ladies?
Well, because fathers treat us how they set the standards, they set the stage.
Okay.
So if your father treated you with the utmost respect, he was there for you, he took care of you. So when another guy comes into your life, you're not just overwhelmed because he says you're beautiful.
Right.
Or that he's buying you this. It's like, okay, it's an expectation.
There's a standard.
There's a standard.
Okay.
There's a standard.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So in practice, what I found in my private practice is that there are many women who deal with daddy issues as well as men.
Right.
But I focus on women because they birth the children, male and female.
Yeah.
You know, they're
humanity
the
comes from our women.
They're the predominant parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we come back from our break, I'm going to share more with you about daddy issues and a little bit of background about my story in Women's Day magazine and how that happened. And
Right. Living with daddy issues, y'all.
Yeah.
Living with daddy issues.
On the Couch with Shuntai and Johnell focuses on educational, humorous, and insightful topics based on extraordinary lives of real people. Each episode provides real talk from real people.
We all just naturally just love each other. Like,
wow.
And see, you know, we as human beings, we as people, we're visual.
Okay.
We're visual.
They said, you know what, I'm not going to give up.
That's
I'm going to fight. And I believe God has blessed me to do things in a really good way to set good standards.
We need to set the standard that, you know something, we can do business with black folks. They will travel. They will do meetings. They will be articulate. They will be on point.
Join Shuntai Hill, a certified counselor, and Johnell Allen-Bey, a life coach and relationship expert, weekly for On the Couch with Shuntai and Johnell. Shuntai Hill and Johnell Allen-Bey are the king and queen of relationships. Each week, the couple engages their audience with hot, sexy topics about relationships for the grown and sexy. The show is interactive, fun, and real.
Our next topic. I got drunk. Hold on. I got drunk the other night, and my girl grabbed my ears from behind. So she was behind him, grabbed his ears, and then he smacked her. I immediately apologized, but to be honest, I meant it, and I knew it was her. I felt horrible about hitting her, but I felt good at the same time. What's up with this?
Tune in weekly to She Say, He Say with Shuntai Hill and Johnell Allen-Bey. For more information, visit shesayhesay.media.
Okay, so we're back with Shuntai Hill.
Yes.
And when we left for a commercial, we talked about the daddy issues, and you're going to get more about when you wrote the article. Because, I mean, to actually express it, it takes a lot when you're writing something down, because there's a lot of emotions involved in it. You know, there's some scars that are opened up again, you know. How did you do that?
So it was in a book that I wrote about the daddy issues, the temporarily disconnected. And in a Women's Day magazine, my father and I were both interviewed.
Okay.
So forgiving my father was a process. I'll tell you, there was a time that he had heart issues. So I went down to Memphis because he had relocated and he was hospitalized. And I went to the hospital with my sons I have 3 sons, they're 3 adult sons now. But we all went to the hospital to see him in Memphis. And I went to the hospital. We drove all that way from Michigan, and I only stayed at the hospital for an hour because I had no connection with him. I was still upset with him. I still had held on to
How
resentment.
old were you? Do you remember the age?
Yeah, I was in my 20s.
Because, you know, that's an important audience, that we know that our young ladies can harbor these bad feelings for years. So that you from 10 and now you're in your 30s. And
no, I was in my late 20s.
Late 20s, almost 30.
Yeah.
That's over 20.
I started young.
That's tough now. And I'm saying that because of the fact that you still, you pissed off.
Yeah, I was very upset because I still did not trust what men would say. So my husband then, if he said something and didn't follow through, it was a trigger for me.
Wow.
It was definitely a trigger. So I went all the way to Memphis. We all went to visit him, and I had nothing to say. My sons talked to him. My husband they had conversations, you know, about sports and things like that. But
you was disconnected.
I was very disconnected.
You're disconnected
from my father. So we stayed about an hour, and then we left and went to Arkansas to visit my ex-husband's family at the time.
Right.
Because I just wanted to make sure he was okay. But I was not at the point in my life where I was able to forgive him for choosing drugs over his family. Now, my father, I was not his only child. I was the only child with my mom.
Right.
But my father had 12 children. Papa was a Rolling Stone.
So, and that added to a little more fuel to the fire, you know, of the distrust, because of the fact that, you know, are you the oldest?
No, I'm not the oldest. I'm like 4th from the oldest.
So
my father had his first child when he was about 15 years old.
Okay. And so when did you come to the determination that, first of all, my dad was learning on the job how to be a father?
Right.
Second of all, then he suffered with this addiction, which controlled his life. And third of all, every man is not like my dad. When did that come?
Well, it didn't come until later.
Okay.
When I decided to go back to school for my second master's, I was going back to school for counseling.
Right.
And then I realized that my father was flawed and he was not perfect. Even though in my life, I looked for perfection in everything I did, because I set the standard, unrealistic expectations for myself and things that I wanted to achieve, which was stressful. I realized then that I had to see him as a human being. First.
Okay.
Someone that was
That's
flawed.
Important.
Someone that was flawed. And then I started to ask him questions about, I would call him every now and then, or when he called me, to say, tell me more about your background, your history. Because most of the time when there is an addiction, there's a reason behind it. People just don't fall into addiction. Sometimes they do, but normally they just don't fall into it.
Right.
My father had a life to where he didn't know who his father was.
Oh boy.
So he was raised by a mother who didn't want him around because he was a product of an affair.
Right.
So his grandparents raised him. So he had some resentment towards his mom. He didn't know how to be a father. He didn't know how to raise a family during that time. So I had to understand him from where he was at.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot, you know, because of the fact that processing your life and trying to figure out where where I'm at here,
Right.
and then for you to shift and be able to, I commend you to be able
Right.
to say, okay, let me set me aside, right,
Right.
and let me be passionate, right, or have
Right.
some compassion
Right.
towards my dad so that I can see some things in myself.
Right. I had to walk in his shoes
Wow.
and understand him from where he was at as a man. And I never asked questions like that. Only thing I knew is that I expected that he knew how to be a father, and I didn't know what was going on in his life that made him make the choices that he made. He moved to Michigan when he was a teenager.
Right.
He had been pretty much on his own. He never knew really what love was, so he searched for love with the women that he encountered, and he had children.
Okay, so he equated that. But you talked about the forgiveness part.
Right.
And that's something that everyone has to encounter one point or something in their life. You have to be able to figure out, I have to forgive, right?
Right.
You know, and so many people assume or put pressure on us to
Right.
forgive.
Right.
So explain that process, because I want you to tell our audience, first of all, how to properly forgive.
Right. Forgiveness is definitely a process. When someone says, please forgive me for what I've done to you.
Did he do that?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
At one stage, he did.
Okay.
And understanding that right away, you don't have to say, yes, I forgive you.
Okay.
You can say, okay, I can work on it, or no, I'm not going to work on it. But if you don't work on it, it's like I show my clients this in sessions. I said, hold on to your fist as hard as you can. Squeeze it as hard as you can. Now, that is unforgiveness. And it causes all types of havoc on your body physically. You can have headaches. You can deal with stomach aches.
This is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work to hold on to this.
It's a lot of work.
But as you try to slowly release,
It feels better.
that's how forgiveness is. It feels better because it's not about them, it's about you.
Excellent.
It's about you releasing that invisible bondage that has had on your life, most of your life.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
And then it becomes about you moving forward because it makes you, even though no matter how much success you have, that forgiveness can still hold you back because your choices are
Right.
still dependent upon that.
I know when I read that piece there, it was so soothing for me to just read and just, you know, kind of meditate on that process
Right.
of just forgiving, you know, and being able to use it, not just for a daddy issue, but just
Right.
for myself, you know,
Right.
forgiving myself, you know. And I thought that was a beautiful piece that you put in there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And when we come back from the break, I'll share more.
Thank you.
On the Couch with Shuntai and Johnell focuses on educational, humorous, and insightful topics based on extraordinary lives of real people. Each episode provides real talk from real people.
We all just naturally just love each other. Like,
Wow.
and see, you know, we as human beings, we as people, we're visual.
Okay.
We're visual.
Leah said, you know what, I'm not gonna give up.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna fight. And I believe God has blessed me to do things in a really good way to set good standards.
We need to set the standard that, you know something, we can do business with black folks. They will travel, they will do meetings, they will be articulate, they will be on point.
Join Shuntai Hill, a certified counselor, and Johnell Allen-Bey, a life coach and relationship expert, weekly for On the Couch with Shuntai and Johnell. Shuntai Hill and Johnell Allen-Bey are the king and queen of relationships. Each week, the couple engages their audience with hot, sexy topics about relationships for the grown and sexy. The show is interactive, fun, and
Our
real.
next topic. I got drunk. Hold on. I got drunk the other night, and my girl grabbed my ears from behind. So she was behind him, grabbed his ears, and then he smacked her. I immediately apologized, but to be honest, I meant it, and I knew it was her. I felt horrible about hitting her, but I felt good at the same time. What's up with this?
Tune in weekly to She Say, He Say with Shuntai Hill and Johnell Allen-Bey. For more information, visit shesayhesay.media.
So welcome back, everyone. We were with the great Shuntai, and wow, she's given us a lot,
Yeah.
you know. And so we're in 2020,
Right.
you know. So tell us about the relationship. How's that look today?
Well, the relationship is quite different what it was when I was younger. Of course, my father is my father, and I respect him as my father. But it seems like more like I'm the parent now with him.
Well,
So,
I know how that feels.
so I'm the parent with him. I make sure he has his things taken care of for him. He'll call me and ask me questions. Actually, my father calls me now to talk about his relationships and things that are going on in his life.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, oh, that's Charles Ray calling. I don't have time to speak to him right now.
Right. Oh boy.
Yes.
So dealing with him at this point here, he's an elderly man.
Mm-hmm.
There's forgiveness on the floor.
Right.
How does he see you in your perception?
My father is very proud
Okay.
of me, and he says that he's proud
Right.
of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's some regrets, but we can't always live in the past either.
Mm-hmm.
So he's there for me as much as I allow him to.
Okay. Yeah. So he's not one of those parents that says, you know, this, you know, me being dysfunctional helped you be the woman and man that you are. That's not where he's at, right?
No, he doesn't say that.
Okay.
He better not say that.
Okay. No, I'm just saying, you know, hey, everything happens for a reason, right? He may think that this is a way to help shape and mold you.
Who we are today is a accumulation of our experiences.
Absolutely.
And he does have, you know, a little bit to do with that,
mm-hmm.
but don't take credit for it.
Don't take credit.
Don't take credit.
Allow you to take that credit.
Because my mother was an awesome woman,
right.
and she stood in the trenches for me. She made sure I had a great life. She made sure my sons had a great life.
Okay.
So my mother can take the credit, even though she's no longer with me. She can still take the credit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's your only living parent.
Yes, he's my only living parent.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So
at this juncture, you've figured out some things, you've matured, you become Shuntai.
Yeah.
What's the next step?
Well, the next step is that in my private practice, Reconnect My Life Counseling, what I do is I work with women, and I also work with couples
mm-hmm.
as far as parent issues. Because, you know, in the couples counseling we do, the experiences that they bring to the table contributes to some of the stuff that happens in a relationship, the choices they make.
Right.
Even if they're not in a marriage, even how they seek out a partner.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to me, I seek out a partner that was very different from my father.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted someone who was more motivational, that had his stuff together, you know?
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So that's what I look for, identified with a partner, someone that has to be strong. Because I'm a strong woman, it has to be a strong king right next to me.
I like that. That all sounds good there. Yeah. So you learned through the process to look for some opposite.
Something opposite.
Okay.
Somebody that was able to make commitments.
Right.
And follow through with that word. Their words are very important. Not that they just said things, but they followed up with action.
Mm-hmm.
So I always look for words and actions to meet one another.
Okay. So what I hear is there's still some residue there from this daddy issue.
There's always going to be.
Even though you've healed,
mm-hmm.
you've forgiven, you still looking at her with that eye.
I still
trying to figure out,
yeah.
you know, is it still Charles Ray here?
I still may side eye, and I may say, okay, Charles Ray showing up here.
Right.
But
let me call the flag. Let me throw that flag.
But, you know, nothing is ever going to be perfect, and you're not going to heal 100%. That's unrealistic. That we still bring to the table our experiences, but we're aware of them, and we try to correct as we go along.
Right.
And that's where healing comes from. And that's a humanistic side of us to know that sometimes we'll fall back.
Right.
But will we catch it and move forward? That's the key.
Okay, I like that.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so now you are planning to take your experience to the next level. Right.
After receiving 2 masters, I figured, you know, this keeps showing up in practice when I see individuals.
Right.
When I see women, especially our African-American women who are hurting and making choices that they shouldn't be, or not recognizing the choices.
Wow.
So I'm going to take it a step further, and I am going after my PhD in January.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
The great Shuntai will be Dr. Shuntai.
Yeah, we need to take research to a whole nother level. In our culture, there's not enough research on us.
In our culture.
In our culture.
Which is, and that's so important because, we do a lot of studying and we have to have our credentials in order, okay?
Right.
But once you get your credentials in order, it's very imperative that you start getting accredited our culture. Start understanding us. We need to set a standard for our people so that we can have a firm understanding of the process that we go through, what we're seeing.
Right.
And I love that when you told me that, I got excited. I'm like,
I feel like it's my duty.
Absolutely.
To continue this and to take it further.
Right.
To now not only impact my life and the life of my sons and the life of my grandchild, and future grandchildren, is to make sure that our culture is impacted. Now it's about leaving a legacy. What is it that I want to leave when I'm not here anymore?
Okay, yeah.
And I want to make change. And I think as an individual, you can make change. Just like throwing a pebble into the water, it may make a wave, but it'll make continuous waves.
Right, okay,
Right.
I like that analogy there. And so the legacy is that you're going to have an impact in our community by making sure that we understand what we're facing when we talk about these issues, and daddy issues being the number one thing.
Right.
Well, I love it. I love that.
Right. So if anyone wants to learn more about daddy issues, or if they're suffering from it, they can always reach out to us at reconnectmylife.com, re-connectmylife.com for more information.
And in the new book that we're about to produce, there's a chapter that's dealing with this entire thing, that issues, and
because it impacts relationships.
It's impacting relationship, but we're talking about it from a male perspective also. So I think that's key. You know, so
it's been a pleasure you interviewing me and me sitting on this side being interviewed.
Yeah, it is. I've been wanting to do this for about a year.
Okay, now you have.
I did it. Yes. I hope I was effective, and and I hope I wasn't too harsh.
No, as always, you're a great co-host and a great interviewer, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.